These are the 7 strategies that you have to master to consistently source off-market deals. I've been doing this for the past 10 years, and I'm going to walk you through how to do it legally, ethically, and in a manner that's scalable. Let's dive right in. My name is Ryan Dossey, and for the past 11 years, I've been generating deals direct to seller off market. The men and women that I've worked with inside of CCF have reported back to us over $80 million worth of results, and I'm going to walk you through what we teach them. My number one most consistent source of off-market deals is direct mail. I absolutely love it because it is scalable, legal, and ethical. If I want more deals, I simply spend more money. If I want fewer deals, I spend less. It's really easy to move that needle back and forth. I've personally spent hundreds of thousands of dollars of my own cash, and I'm going to give you some kind of actionable takeaways if you want to deploy this channel. First and foremost is we're going to want to vary the call to action that we use on our direct mail pieces. Oftentimes people will send the same piece or the same phrasing to the same sellers over and over again, expecting different results. One of the things that I like to personally do is throw my sellers on a sequence. So every month they get a different piece with different copy. So month 1 might be sell your house fast. Month 2 might be you don't have to pay realtor fees. All of my hoarders tend to call me on my piece that says sell your house without cleaning anything out. We have several other things that we rotate folks through. The reason we do that is folks are going to call off of the one that resonates with them. This kind of goes for all channels, but I highly recommend taking your calls live. One of our guys in CCF just dropped his first direct mail campaign and threw out a post asking if it was possible to just let the calls go to voicemail because he was getting a lot of phone calls. The overall resounding response was absolutely not. You paid for those leads. You better take them live as they're calling in. Another actionable takeaway here is to blend different lists. I personally mail a mix of folks that have things going on that might indicate they want to sell that place. For instance, an eviction or an expired MLS listing. But the other half of my budget goes to simply places that I like. One thing I really enjoy with direct mail is the control. I can literally generate leads in specific neighborhoods, in specific asset classes. If I don't want properties built in the 1890s, I simply don't mail them. With direct mail and several other channels, we have that level of control. The last one that I've got here is that you want to be consistent with the marketing. A lot of times investors will do a marketing campaign, pause everything, wait to see if they get results, and then restart it once they do. The problem with that is they only end up mailing about once a quarter, and we lovingly call that the 6-figure hamster wheel. It's easy to kind of get stuck on this cycle of being trapped at $100K a year because you're not marketing consistently enough. I might be slightly biased because I own them, but for the absolute best mail, go to ballpointmarketing.com. My second favorite source of off-market deals is SEO. SEO stands for search engine optimization, and it's simply when a seller goes and Googles, we buy houses or sell my house fast in their city, I want my website to pop up first or second. In my experience, if you're like 3rd, 4th, or 5th, you might get some random leads, but if you can get to 1st or 2nd in your metro, it's a very consistent deal flow. My favorite thing about these leads is they know what we do and they're looking for what we offer. Unlike with a piece of direct mail, they might be like, I hadn't considered selling my house. Let me take a look. Somebody that's Googling companies that will buy my house fast for cash, they know exactly what we do, and it's something that they're looking for. SEO itself could be an entire video on how to do it that, quite frankly, I don't think I'm qualified yet to teach. I'm teaching myself how to do it as we speak and really trying to do things the right way. So not cutting any corners, really kind of building for the long haul. What that looks like for me, I'm personally writing content that I believe is helpful and unique. I'm not using AI to do it. I'm not paying somebody in the Philippines to do it. I'm taking my knowledge of how real estate works and typing that out into blog posts. One actionable tip for SEO is to personalize your metadata. The metadata is like what pops up on Google. So what's the headline? What's like the title of the article? And what's the 1 or 2 sentence synopsis that would make somebody want to click through to that? I also like to make sure that the image that I've selected for that blog post is something that'll look good if it's shared on social media. I'm personally currently managing my brands out of Carrot. Carrot.com. It's an investor template website generator. I've been using them since like 2016 and been very, very happy. My Carrot sites have generated over 1,000 leads at this point. The other thing with SEO is getting backlinks. So getting local or national publications that will link back to your website, which just increases its authority, making Google boost you up the rankings. It's pretty complex, but in a nutshell, if you write really, really good content, it's possible that other people will link back to that content as a resource. Or you can do things like guest blogging, reaching out to other publications, seeing if they will let you write for them, backlinking to your website, hopefully boosting your rankings. It's worth noting SEO is a long game thing. You're probably not going to drop a blog post tomorrow and generate results. It's likely going to take 3 to 6 to 12 months before you start to see meaningful traction. My third favorite source of deals, and this is new for me, is actually radio advertising. My business partner in SoldFast, Mitch Caluzzi, is an absolute animal when it comes to negotiating pricing on radio ads. And there's a couple things that I picked up. The first lesson I learned painfully is that radio ads and Spotify are very different. I personally threw thousands of dollars testing Spotify ads and didn't generate a single meaningful lead. So learn from my mistake, or maybe you can do a better job at it than what I was able to do. The second thing that I learned from Mitch is that having a vanity number actually makes a lot of sense on this particular channel. So something that's easily memorable, similar sounds or numbers in a row goes a long way. And lastly, with radio, you want to be consistent in the channels that you're on and on multiple channels. It's extremely difficult to negotiate. I tested radio ads before I was working with Mitch in Indianapolis and didn't get anything out of it. And I was like, oh, radio ads suck. Turns out I just didn't have the relationships to get the pricing that I needed. Mitch was able to get these same ads on these same stations for 14 times less than what I was able to get. So yeah, it makes sense in theory that radio wouldn't work if I'm paying $280 for something he's paying $20 for. The fourth one that I've got here is pay-per-click and Facebook ads. I'm going to kind of bundle these. Pay-per-click is basically paying Google for like SEO placement. I have a love-hate relationship with pay-per-click. I've made a lot of money off of it. I've lost a lot of money off of it, but I've generated deals. When it comes to pay-per-click, it's super important that you track what's working and you cut off what's not. One challenge with pay-per-click is most of the vendors charge a recurring monthly retainer that's anywhere from like $500 to $2,000 plus. It's pretty tricky when in most major metros, it doesn't make sense to spend more than like $3 to $4 grand to pay somebody $25,000 a year to manage that for you. So while I've generated results out of it, it's something that I think you need to approach with caution. Now, I am a big proponent though, out of retargeting my website visitors with Facebook, Instagram, as well as YouTube videos. We teach this in CCF, but when a typical seller gets a piece of mail from me, I follow them around the internet like something they've been shopping for. A typical seller is going to see about 60 different pieces of content from my We Buy Houses company in the first 30 days. They know who we are, they know what we do, and they know how it works. I think there's a lot of room here for real estate agents and investors to really seem like they're the leader in their market by doing that intentionally. We almost get this weird like, oh my gosh, you're the guys off the internet, when it's, yeah, we did that to you. That was intentional. Now, it is worth noting with pay-per-click as well as with Facebook ads, sometimes you can get leads that are really on the fringes of your market, sometimes as much as like an hour or two away, and lead quality can be a bit meh. We've had people fill out a form that's like, what is the address that you are looking to sell, that asks them things like, are you the owner? How long have you owned it for? How do we reach you to make your offer? We call them and they're like, oh, I was just curious if that house was for sale. This random, like, what? So lead quality can be a bit hit or miss on these. That being said, unlike SEO, it's something that I can swipe a credit card, get clicks and form fills almost immediately. One actionable tip that I do have for you on pay-per-click, as well as Facebook ads and SEO, is to set up something like instant calls. So we have this through my call center call porter, where somebody fills out a form on our website, they hit enter, it immediately calls my staff, calls the seller, connects the phone call. What that does is, on average, we're on the phone with a seller within 30 seconds of when they fill out that form. The typical investor or business, you fill out a form on their website, and then you're waiting 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes, a couple hours until somebody calls you back. So really, really cuts down on that speed to lead thing. The fifth way to source off-market real estate deals is cold calling. Now, look, I'm personally not a fan of smile and dial. There's a lot of real estate coaches who are, because the barrier to entry is so low. You could use something like Deal Machine and have a dialer plus data for like $120 a month. That's a significantly lower barrier to entry than me being like, hey, a typical mail campaign, I'm dropping $3,000 to $5,000. I think that's one of the reasons that you've seen the rise of cold calling. However, I would be lying if I told you that it didn't work. I have friends of mine that are extremely consistent with it, and it's all they do. So let's talk about a couple actionable takeaways as well as some do's and don'ts to make this legal and ethical. I personally pay attention to the do not call list. If somebody's on the do not call list, it's real simple. I do not call them. Now you'll hear people argue like, well, Ryan, I'm not calling to sell them anything. I'm calling to try to give them money. Look, you're a business trying to generate profits. I don't know how we can argue that that's not protected by the do not call list. I personally like to use a one-to-one dialer, meaning one person is calling one other person. You have things called power dialers where one person can call 3 or 5 or even 10 people at a time. The problem is whoever picks up first is going to get connected and everybody else kind of gets dead air until somebody else picks up. If you've ever gotten a call on your phone and it's like, hello, hello, and then you hear like a bloop, and then the person's there, that was somebody calling you using a multi-line dialer. A couple niche lists that I think are worth covering is out-of-state absentee-owned properties that are vacant. So if I live in one market and I own a property in a different that's sitting vacant, just deteriorating every month, chances are I might be willing to sell that place at a pretty deep discount. Another good one is expired listings, because anytime I make somebody an offer and it's too low, they tell me, well, I'll just go list it. With this list, we can kind of be like, well, how did that work for you last time? I think it's worth pointing out that finding off-market deals is going to cost you something. It's either going to be time or money or a blend of both. Early on in my career, I had plenty of time and didn't have much money, so I was inserting, licking, and stamping envelopes with my wife while we watched like Dateline or The X-Files to save a couple cents a piece. Now I would rather pay somebody to have that done for me by machines, so I'm not having to put any time in. Cold calling is kind of similar. Early on, it might be you smiling and dialing, and then you might decide to outsource to some sort of an agency in the future. I think it is worth noting that even if you outsource to an agency, you do want to make sure that they're still doing it in a way that's compliant. At the end of the day, it is your reputation that they're playing with. Number 6 we've got is networking, which really encompasses a lot. It's basically just telling people what you do. Now, for folks early on as either agents or investors, they seem to struggle with this. It's almost like they want to be a secret ninja solopreneur.
I use Ninja Focus to slow my heart rate down.
And I can kind of resonate with it. Early on when I first started real estate, I was also exploring like 6 other ways to make money. Let's be real. I didn't wake up like, oh my gosh, I want to make beautiful houses. I woke up and I was like, I hate my life. I'm making 23 grand a year. How do I make more than that? And real estate was the vehicle that I found. But I was also playing with things like, do I learn how to run ads to do an agency? Or there's this whole Amazon reseller stuff. And for me, it was, well, if I was doing 4 or 5 things and one of them failed, it didn't matter because it didn't have my full attention anyway. Whereas if what I went all in on failed, that meant I was a failure. And at the time, that would have been really, really hard for me to swallow. So if that's you, I totally get it. But it's going to cost you money if people don't know what it is that you're doing or what you want to do. I had a gentleman that I sat next to in a call center, which was my first full-time job at 17, and he ended up selling his house to homevestors. We were chatting one day and he was like, oh yeah, I totally forgot. Man, I would have rather sold you my house than it gone to those guys. Well, he didn't sell me his house because I didn't tell him that I was buying houses. Networking could be things like reaching out to for sale by owners and for rents in your market, explaining what you do, seeing if they're interested or if they know somebody who is. Could be going to garage sales. What do people do before they sell? They sell the junk first. Hey, I'm not here to buy any of the stuff, but are you open to selling the house? One of my employees actually bought his primary home for his family at a deep discount just by walking up to somebody at a garage sale and asking if they'd sell it. And it was in a beautiful A-class area. You could network more formally with like estate sales or attorneys or folks who handle things like bankruptcy or evictions. Effectively, you got to get the word out there that you're buying houses and that you're willing to compensate folks if they bring you something. Now, if you're licensed, you have to be careful with that. I don't think you can technically like pay referrals, but you could buy leads. If you're not licensed, there's nothing that precludes you from doing a Facebook post that says, hey, I need to buy a house this month. If you bring me a deal, I'll pay you $500 or even $1,000 or $2,000. You could also network with real estate agents. Most real estate agents aren't used to dealing with the kind of deals that we're looking for off market. Hey, if you get a hoarder situation or something that's boarded up or has squatters or needs serious repairs, let me buy it and you can get the commission still. Number 7 that I'm going to throw out is the only one that I personally haven't done, and it's because I don't really have the cojones for it, but that is door knocking. I know folks in downtown Denver that are generating multiple off-market deals a month simply by walking up and knocking on the front door. When it comes to things like this, we've really got to ask ourselves, how bad do we want it? I can tell you when I first got started in real estate, I was willing to do quite a lot to change my current circumstances. I was only making 23 grand a year. I was working full time. I had a new wife. That math wasn't mathing. Similarly, you might have to decide, well, am I more uncomfortable by my current situation or the thought process of putting myself out there? At Ballpoint Marketing, we actually make these like door hangers that people have had stupid good results and response rates off of putting them out. We actually don't make money on them. They kind of suck to make. We've thought about discontinuing them as a product, but it's kind of there for folks that like cash is super tight and they're wanting to generate leads or listings. The thing that's funny though, we found is most folks don't want to put them out. So if you're willing to put in the work, that can be a fantastic channel for you. All of these channels have one thing in common. I personally know people making multi-six figures a year in net profit utilizing them. Where I find folks get in trouble is they'll try like 7 and they'll throw like $100 at each one a month. And you're not investing enough into that channel in order to generate results. Typically, I'm seeing like a $3,000 to $5,000 cost per acquisition across my various channels. Well, if I'm only doing $300 a month in direct mail, that means it might take me, I don't know, 10 months to 1.5 years to generate a deal. I don't know about you. I'm not that patient. There are a couple that I didn't cover that other folks are promoting, and that's because I'm not a big fan of them. One is text message blasting. This was all the rage the past couple of years. I think for the similar reason of cold calling, you could send out 10,000 texts for like $100 and immediately be in conversation with people. But the TCPA pretty much makes it illegal. Somebody has to have given you their phone number and said, hey, you can text me in order for you to legally be able to text them. So with that being said, it's kind of died off. The folks that are still promoting it are really kind of skirting that gray area. I personally know folks that have been sued for it to the tune of $30,000, $50,000. So not worth it for me. You're an adult, put your big boy pants on and make your own decisions. Along those same lines as RVM or ringless voicemails, effectively you're able to like make somebody's phone ring for a second, but go straight to voicemail and leave like a pre-recorded thing. Again, TCPA makes this pretty much illegal. Buddy of mine ate like a $50,000 fine to get out of a class action lawsuit. So I'm not doing it. I haven't done it for 5-6+ years. The new one that's all like hot, trendy, and sexy is AI cold calling. I've seen ads that are like, we can call up to 2,000 people at a time for you. I'm not a telemarketing attorney, but I have read through all of the TCPA rules, regulations, and guidelines. A lot of it has to do around it being an automatic dialing system. I don't know how we can argue that AI sitting there spamming out 200 calls at a time is not violating some of these federal protections. Now, with these protections, the fines range from $500 to $1,500 per call. So if I'm using, one of these tools that modestly claims it'll make 1,000 calls a day for me, if I have it hit 500 people, that's $500,000 in fines that day. Now, everybody's like, everybody's doing it. It's fine. Like, I don't want to be the person they make an example out of. Do you? There are 2 things that will bankrupt you when it comes to sourcing off-market deals if you're not careful. The first one is not controlling your costs. Often we'll set up something like pay-per-click. We'll throw it on a credit card and we're just kind of like waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting and hoping that a deal comes out of it. You have to know when to turn off or turn up a channel. If it's not working, cut it off. If it is working, you probably want to ramp it up. Me personally, I look to spend about my cost to generate 1 to 2 deals when testing channels. So I'm typically spending anywhere from like 6 to 8K before making that decision. Really want to try to give almost like a 90-day runway. I'll be the first person to tell you that, even with direct mail. If I was marketing for 3 months and wasn't getting results, I would want to know like, okay, what am I not doing correctly, or what do I need to do differently? As somebody that's a vendor in this space as well, my recommendation to you is to treat your vendors as your advocates. If you're running pay-per-click and not getting results, communicate that early and often with your vendor, letting them know like, hey, I might have to pull the plug here if something doesn't work out. You want to leverage their expertise to generate results for you. What I've found with a lot of folks in the real estate space, especially on the vendor side, they care about your results, but they can't help you if they don't know that you're not struggling. The second thing we have there is not tracking the results to know when we need to call it. If you're doing multiple forms of marketing, it's really easy for like one channel to take credit for another. I was doing a lot of direct mail for somebody, and a lot of their deals were coming through their website. Their pay-per-click vendor was saying, oh yeah, we got you that deal, when it just happened to be that that person who got that mail piece called 3 days after the mail hit to sell. We once had a radio seller that came in as an SEO lead. They filled out the form online, and I was like, sweet. When I listened to the call though, they said, yeah, I just heard you out on the radio and found you guys on Google. Well, my website helped, but radio was definitely what generated that result. So if I was spending money on SEO or on radio and deciding what it made sense to put more budget to, in that instance, if I pushed more of my budget to SEO, well, I would have shut off what actually generated that deal. One last recommendation on this: whatever you're doing, make sure that you are reachable and take your calls live. There's nothing sillier than having sellers reach out to you and then not be able to get you on the phone. I own callporter.com. If you want to outsource it, we take like 15,000 inbound calls a month from sellers just for agents and investors. If you want help learning how to do all of this stuff, that's what we teach in CCF. I'll drop the link for it down below. If you're watching this and you're like, this is a lot to figure out, if you've done some deals, if you have a track record, if you have the ability to close on places, you can also talk to me about Sold Fast, where I literally do all of this for you. If you haven't already, be sure to like and subscribe. Again, my name is Ryan Dossey. Thank you for taking the time to hang out with me today. Talk to you soon.